Kenyans are feeling the heat of tough economic times. Now, during these tough times, the importance of proper financial planning can never be overemphasized. With me in studio to walk us through how to better plan your finances is Odhiambo Ramogi. He is an economist and the CEO, Elim Capital Limited. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Let's
begin with whether the amount of money one has is an indicator of what's available for them to spend.
Certainly not, but it's an indicator for them on what's available to plan. Perhaps we could start this conversation into just the different facets of financial stability. There is financial instability, where what you have is not enough for your needs. Then there is stability, where what you have is enough for your needs and a little leisure. Then there is financial independence, where you have an air of independence. You can survive a job loss for a year. Then there is freedom, where your money now works for you. You are where you are. In the midst of a recession like this one, it has a way of taking you back an inch. So if you are stable, you probably come to instability. But it's not just you. There are many other people who are also waiting for your income. The list of your dependents increase. And so it's important that whatever you receive, then you plan for it more carefully. And in planning, I think the most important tool is the budget. So you put in place a budget. You say, this is what I'm going to spend. This is what I am going to save. You decide on your savings before the money comes, so that then you put the savings aside, and then what remains is what you spend. And so it should not be just, I will just spend, and then whatever remains I save, right, because it will never be the case.
Yeah, Odhiambo, before we get into the budget, there are people who are scaling down. Say you have 2 workers, you let go of one, or you make them temps. Say you used to shop for the entire month, you now shop weekly. So in terms of scaling down, does this ease the burden significantly?
It does. And scaling down is not just about laying off or perhaps eliminating some expenditures. It might also mean changing your buying strategy. If you're buying retail, then you can buy wholesale or in bulk, and that ensures that you survive. But it might also mean that perhaps if you're living in a house that you feel is in an environment you need to spend more, whether it's on the rent or on the other bills, then you move to another locality. And so there are indeed adjustments that Kenyans can make to survive the situation.
Mm-hmm. We talked about planning a budget, but how to stick to it is where the challenge lies, especially when you look at miscellaneous expenses that may arise every now and then.
There is what we call the power of habit. What habits help you is they give you discipline that you ordinarily would not want, or you would not have. And so the first power of habit, or the first habit that we need to cultivate, is writing down every expenditure. First of all, it's tedious. So it would ensure that you don't just spend spuriously, because you don't want to write down sweets and maize cobs along the road. And so it means then your spending is very organized. So make sure you cultivate that habit, because it will help you to stick to the budget, as opposed to if you just have a budget and you go with it. That habit now will ensure that every time you go to buy, you must refer to something, right, because at the end of the day, you will still need to write on something.
But even with a budget, there's some unavoidable expenses that we're looking at right now. For instance, power. I hear people talking about buying tokens, at extremely, alarming rates. And then there's also the issue of the fuel. There's also the issue of the water. For instance, in this Kileleshwa area, there's a serious water problem right now. And so you find that the water bowsers are constantly being seen in some of these neighborhoods. So the unavoidable expenses, even as you talk about the budget.
The unavoidable expenses are indeed unavoidable. So that one you cannot avoid. But if you live in your own house somewhere in rural Kenya, I would highly advise that you go for solar. Mm-hmm. Where possible, just avoid this tete-a-tete with Kenya Power. Go for solar. It would help you in such circumstances. And so yes, going back to the budget, I think a budget will enable you also to come up with savings, because it is the savings that you will use to invest. It is the savings that you'll use to overcome the difficult challenges or the difficult times that are coming ahead. And at a time like this, you need more savings, which means even if you have the number of dependents, then you must communicate to one, that they are necessary dependents. They are necessary dependents that you can actually just let go because they are able to take care of them. But two, the ones that you know you cannot let go of, at least let them know that times are tough, and so that they are also careful in their expenditure. Because that savings will help you on a rainy day. And the reason why I'm emphasizing on that is because in times like this, it is more likely that more and more people will face the axe at their places of work. We are looking at a possible retrenchment and layoffs coming up in the next 1 to 2 years.
I mean, you're talking about savings, and people are saying, where is my money going? So essentially, people feel that they don't have enough to even save, leave alone to invest. And so when we talk about investments, how much should one bear in mind, commensurate to their income or what it is that they bring home as regards investment, and what you should set aside?
Let me start with the question of where is my money going? Yeah. That is a statement of someone who does not budget. Because if you budgeted, then it would be very clear to you where your money is going, and it will enable you and empower you to make the necessary decisions that you need to make, or the necessary adjustments that are necessary. Coming to investments, there are investments that I would recommend at this time. Then there are investments I would say don't even think about it. If an investment requires that you take a loan at this time that you probably are not sure how you're going to finance should you lose your job, forget about it. If an investment is one that would require you go retail and maybe a kinyozi, a barber shop or a salon or a cosmetic shop, forget about it at this time. On the contrary, if you're already running that business, I would recommend that you merge forces with those other people who are in the same business, because it will lower your costs and it will ensure your survival, even if you break even until the time that you're able to. But there are other areas where perhaps you would still be successful. There are assets that are now being offloaded very affordably, and that might help you, or you might sell in the future at very good prices, whether it's stocks or bonds or cars or land, properties. If you can get, if you're liquid enough to get some of these assets, go for them, because a recession is just a passing wind. At some good point, you will be able to let go of these things.
Now, understanding your debt, Odhiambo, as we close, and how to best pay for it.
Debt. Don't take debt to spend. Debt is not income. Debt is someone's money that you use to empower you to access opportunities that you otherwise would not be able to access. And so for me, if you find yourself at a position where you are unable to pay your debt, don't run, don't shut down your phone. It is best that you have a conversation with the people who lent you the money, so that you can now arrange on how you can elongate the time, or perhaps pay later. But if you have not taken a debt, I would not recommend that this is the best time to take debt, because there's just too much uncertainty. Right. On the contrary, if you can develop or build your savings, there will be more of an asset than going into debt. Talking
about savings, saving for retirement, and particularly for those who don't have employer-sponsored accounts, and not for retirement, saving generally just for the inevitable job losses, pay cuts.
Go ahead and save. Look, there are savings that are statutory, so that when you don't have much of a choice, you'll still need to save. But there is also savings that you can do voluntarily. Even part of it is the pensions savings. So you can still go ahead and save for as long as you still have that job, you still have that income. It's not, the whole earth is not coming to an end. Go ahead and save. But there are savings that perhaps were going to SACCOs. If even after adjusting, you're still not able to make ends meet, you might want to reduce slightly so that at least your family can still survive. But at the same time, you know that the importance of saving, because that saving will help you tomorrow if that income is not there.
Many thanks. Odhiambo Ramogi is an economist and the CEO, Elim Capital Limited.
Thank you.